Hey guys, it's Nutcase, and in today's Patreon video, I'm going to tell you guys about my experience with art teachers. Now, I had art teachers in high school and in community college, and I'm going to do worst to best, because I actually did have two good teachers, but I also had two bad teachers. So the first teacher we're going to talk about is my college 2D and 3D art teacher. Yes, I had to take him twice. I had no other choice, because he was the only one that did classes at night, because I was working while also going to college. So the first semester that I took with him was 2D art, which I really had no issues with him, except for he kind of took over the art club, which I was a member of because one of my friends actually started it, and his wife was the sponsor for it, which at our college you had to have a teacher that like sponsored the club, and like they would be the one watching over us and let us use their classroom and whatnot. So our what was it? It was a club trip we had decided to go on, was going to come up to Atlanta, which I now live in Atlanta, but and we were going to go to the High Museum. For some reason, this gets canceled and we get moved to going to Florida. So I get my deposit back because I'm not going to go to South Florida. I'm from South Florida, and I lived up in North Florida most of my life. I don't want to go to South Florida for whatever reason. And at that time, my now husband, which was my boyfriend at the time, was like, well, we'll just go up to Atlanta. I have, family up there. We'll just go do stuff up there by ourselves. And I was like, all right, cool, we'll do that. So we go do that for the weekend that they go down to down to South Florida, and I come back and I hear about how it was actually the only reason why they changed it to South Florida was because of my 2D art teacher wanting to meet up with his friends from out of country, because he was from, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to generalize like this, but he was from either the Czech Republic or from Yugoslavia or something like that. I feel bad not knowing, but I honestly don't want to devote enough brain power to this guy to remember where he's from. That's how much of a dick he was later on. So that, after that, like, I didn't have any issue again that semester with him, because honestly the 2D class was fine because mostly everything was peer graded, basically. So no issues. Then comes the second semester and I'm taking 3D art with him, and I have my grandmother who passes away during my semester with him, and I miss a lot of classes because of that. Now mind you, all of the classes I missed were work classes, like where you'd go in and you work on your projects. So, like, I get it if I didn't have my projects done, but I literally had all my projects done on time, like, for everything. And I get a notice after, like, my fourth absence, which was, the fourth absence was, like, the line that the college gave that, like, okay, this is when they can start failing you. Now, mind you, when the fourth absence happened, I called him, told him what was happening, that my grandmother was passing away that night, which she did, by the way. And he was like, oh, that's fine, I totally understand, don't worry about it. And then I get this notice saying I'm failing his class. And he was like, oh, well, you have to be failing if you miss that. And, like, I had to take it to the dean, and the dean was like, no, she doesn't have to be failing. This is your choice to fail her. So if you fail her, she will no longer have, like, the credits she needs for her degree. So what does he do? He gives me a fucking C in his class, because that's not considered failing, and I can still get credits for it, but I literally was the only one in that class, besides like two other students, that had every single project done, and I still got a C in that class. Because I missed some classes because my grandmother was passing away. That doesn't seem fair, right? And when I talked to him about this, he was like, well, you shouldn't be missing classes. And I had enough of his shit, and I was like, I'm sorry, you're the one that doesn't even come to, like, classes that I do come to whenever I'm supposed to be working. You just don't come to class. You're just like, just work on this, and you don't come. And he's like, well, I don't have to, because I'm the teacher. And I'm like, well, that's not, it's not cool. Like, that's like a double standard. But whatever. So, he was the asshole teacher that I had. He didn't motivate anybody. He was just like, oh, do this, this, and this. And literally it was peer graded. Besides him failing me, almost, for 3D. Alright, so my second bad teacher, which I'm gonna put bad in quotation marks, because she really wasn't that bad, was one of the high school art teachers I had. She was... I don't think I had her for a semester, actually. But I ended up finishing out a class in her class, like a semester out in her class. And that wasn't so bad. But the thing that she did that I didn't like was when I was taking my AP art class, she allowed me to let my pictures sit in her room because she didn't have a class that period to dry. I come back at the end of the day, of like the whole school day, to see that she has messed with my picture so much as, you know, like painted on top of it and added things. And I was like, this couldn't be what she's done. Like, this has to have been somebody come into the class and like do this. But then she was like, no, I did that. And even my AP art teacher was like, why did you do that? So yeah, that was the only issue I ever had with her. And she was nice besides that. She actually also taught classes at the college, but I never took from her at the college. My first good art teacher was actually my art history teacher in college. I tried to take other classes with her because she did like metalworking, like jewelry making and like silk printing and stuff, but that class was like one of the most popular at my college, and yeah, like you couldn't get in. But I really liked history, and so having a good art history teacher was really nice too, because she was very passionate about teaching the history of art as well as art itself. So that made that class so much more enjoyable to me. And then my one like amazing teacher was actually my high school art teacher, who convinced me to join the AP class as well. He actually fought for me to join the AP because at that time, unless you had a certain grade point average, you couldn't join an AP class. I didn't have that grade point average, but he went to the school board, well, not the school board, I think he went to like the principal and like the guidance counselors and were like, look, she has this talent and she deserves to be in this class, and it's not a academic or whatever style AP class, it's a talent-based class. She should be in it. And so that's how I got into his AP class, and he was just, throughout the whole time I was in his class, he was very supportive of not just me, but like every art student he had, even if they didn't want to do art for a living and he was just there trying to help them hone a hobby. He was very passionate about doing that, and he was the whole reason why I ever, sorry, I'm getting a little choked up, that I even thought I could do this as a living. He also was one of the few people that told me I didn't have to go to school for art. I thought, and until I was 20 or so, I thought that I would need to go to school for art before I could be taken seriously or even do freelance. Like, why would anybody commission somebody that doesn't have a degree, right? He even told me back in high school that that wasn't the case. Like, as long as you have talent, people will like your stuff. And here I am sitting at 6+ years doing art for a living and doing what I love and being able to do even YouTube videos on art and stuff and doing my Patreon, which is what I'm doing here, because he was one of the driving forces behind me thinking I can do this even if I don't have the education for it. I know a lot of people have bad experiences with art teachers. I mean, I did. So I know for a fact that other people do. But there are good ones out there. And I don't want you guys to be discouraged if you do have a bad art teacher and they tell you stuff like you can't do this or there's no way you can make a living doing this. You can do it if you set your mind to it. Don't let them tell you can't. I hope you guys enjoyed my little rambling and enjoyed the speed paint as well. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!